Yo ho is pirate movie for me.
No, because this podcast does not endorse movie piracy.
But do you know who does endorse piracy? The people who made the famous "You Wouldn't Steal a Car" video.
Still one of my favorite clips.
Yeah.
Ever produced.
The lovely irony that they stole the music and stole the font in that video. They didn't pay the royalties for those.
Uh-huh. It also led into a whole bunch of hilarious memes, like, you wouldn't download a car.
Yeah.
Fuck you, I would if I could.
Right. But hey, fuck you, dear listener. Fuck everyone. I've been watching 8 hours for hero music and endless sword fights. Here we are, Pirates of the Caribbean. It's been over 20 years now, and it's still sword fights that never end, and 8 hours of hero music.
It's been 20 years now, and you just found out about the films, didn't you?
I wish.
You were like what is this pirate movie that all the cool kids are watching?
That was like I think I saw the first one or some of the sequels in theaters. The third one for sure I saw in the theaters. I remember dozing off when the fights started with the tentacle monster Davy Jones.
I saw the first one in theaters. And then I was pretty hyped for the second one, The Dead Man's Chest. And then I saw the trailers and I was like, oh no, these red flags are rising up. So I catch them all on DVD, which I even still own today. In fact, I upgraded my collection to own the Pirates of the Caribbean Ultimate Trilogy collection, which comes with the Lost Discs special behind the scenes feature extra bonus DVD to top it all off. And I'm still kind of wondering why the fuck did I ever watch like Dead Man's Chest and At the World's End. I had the same dozing off experience with the third one when I originally saw it. And now on rewatch, I was kind of revisiting those memories and emotions. I was like, okay, oh god, this takes forever.
So not much has changed.
Not much has changed.
Maybe the biggest point of contest is gonna be the discussion about the first film. Is it good? Is it bad?
Yeah, most definitely. The first film is, by all merits and in all metrics, the most interesting one. Both as a film and as a cultural landmark, because when the first Pirates of the Caribbean hit, it hit like an asteroid. It was like a meteor strike when it came out in the movieplexes. And it's also the most interesting one to talk about, like in the behind the scenes sense.
But it's quite the thing that you would expect from Disney. It's in some sense incredibly predictable coming from Disney, and you might go into the theater expecting a very simple story about like the typical movie, something from, not exactly from the 1930s, but you know, in the systems wise, like it's gonna be just a simple story about pirates. There's gonna be a sword fight here and there and some spooky scenes, maybe just like basic treasure hunt, and to go to a bunch of interesting location with interesting characters. But unfortunately, it's not only the first one, but these films, they decide to get involved with the supernatural stories, which wasn't even a part of the original ride in Disneyland, and CGI.
Well, it kind of was, and it wasn't.
There were no
part of the original.
As far as I know, on the Joyride, there were no ghosts or evil spooky things from the underworld and things like that?
Debatable. It's debatable depending on like which ride engineer you ask that from.
Okay.
Because some of the ride engineers and Imagineers, as they are these days called, because everybody has a job that has a stupid title in it.
Yeah.
They envisioned it that the first skeletons that you see, well, if you ask from Group A, they were just like skeletons of pirates, and if you asked from Group B, there were kind of a cursed, semi-undead skeletons of pirates, and from first seeing those skeletons, the rest of the ride would unfold you, and it would be kind of this dreamlike, hazy, kind of a underworldly experience where you kind of see what the pirates were before they became skeletons, in a sense. So it's kind of like sipping into beyond the veil of death.
Okay.
It's like one interpretation that certain ride engineers had in their head.
But I'm pretty sure there was no CGI tentacle monsters.
Yeah, well, that they did not have, and they did not have Kraken.
Yeah.
But you saying that this is like the one of the most expectable things to come from Disney, I would say that this is like the least expectable movie to come out from Disney. Like, this was something like when the original Pirates came out, it was precisely the movie that you would never actually believe that Disney would ever produce.
Well,
mainly because Disney itself did not want to produce Pirates
true.
of the Caribbean: Curse of the Black Pearl. Like when Dick Cook and Jerry Bruckheimer first approached the studio head Will Eisner about making the Curse of the Black Pearl, Will Eisner immediately proceeded to start to vomit blood and 2-month-old sperm while wiggling on the ground and yelling no, absolutely no, get the fuck out of my office, you two lunatics.
Wow.
And they had to, like I said, like the first Pirates of the Caribbean is interesting also in the behind-the-scenes sense. Because basically Bruckheimer, Depp, and the director Gore Verbinski, they had to kickstart the production behind Disney's back. They went without Disney's permission and started production, and eventually when they had already done some of the shoot, they re-asked Will Eisner to come to the set, and at that point Eisner was like, okay, yeah, it actually does look pretty cool, and Disney will get on board with your fancy pirate movie.
Yeah, according to Disney, it was not a Disney movie to be made by Disney, but it's Disney in a sense that I found the usual elements kind of having those kid-friendly elements, not taking any huge risks or leaps of faith.
Risks and leaps of faith is kind of a question of from who you ask that.
Yeah.
Because once again, if you asked from Disney and the CEO Will Eisner would have told you that it was a risk worth of a seppuku for even trying it.
Wow.
Pirates was seen as a way too big of a risk for Disney to ever approach it. At least originally, and then it became a box office hit, and the tone in the bell changed remarkably.
That's a lot to be said from a company who released Pocahontas.
Yeah. Pirates was seen as more risky risky venture than Pocahontas. Remarkably so.
Yeah, I think Disney didn't have faith for kind of interesting reasons, because you still have those elements of skeleton zombies, hearts in a box, and whatever the hell the third film was about. All of those kid-friendly elements are there. My gripe, though, mainly is that it goes a little bit convoluted. It could have been just about the pirate setup. There's enough to munch on there, but then it seems like it doesn't trust itself enough to just stick with that. It seems like Disney's thinking, like this pirates thing, it's not enough. We have to have something even more. Perhaps, well, I don't know if it's fair to say only kid-friendly elements, but they did add those kid-friendly elements to the story. Perhaps in a fear that this is not gonna sell if we don't go completely haywire here.
I don't know how much the elements actually are coming from Disney and how much it's based on like what the script writers originally imagined. Granted, I could have read the script for the Pirates one, and I didn't see, and I decided to not go through that trouble, because the script version that I would have been able to get into my hands was already one of the shooting scripts, which means that it's basically at that point it would have already had the Disney seal of approval, and therefore if some version of the script would have been darker and, for example, lacking of the skeleton pirate element, well, that most definitely would no longer be the case in the script that I could have get into my hands, and therefore I decided that fuck it, I can skip it. But once again, like, it's due to this, it's hard to say like how much of what is in, especially in Pirates 1, Curse of the Black Pearl, how much that is like corporate mandate coming from Disney, and how much that is what the writers envisioned. Because the skeletons, for example, is something that was already very deep in the original visions of the script writers. So that was not a tagged on element coming from Disney. If something, Disney apparently venomously hated a hell of a lot of the artistic decisions that the crew took when filming Pirates of the Caribbean, including Johnny Depp's depiction of Captain Jack Sparrow, to a point where Depp reportedly got a lot of phone calls coming from Disney asking him, like, what the hell Depp is doing. What are you doing with your hands? Is Jack Sparrow drunk? Is he gay? What is he? And reportedly Will Eisner came to the set at least once, looking at Depp's performance and screaming that he's ruining the film.
No, I wouldn't go so far. Although I'm also obliged to ask the question, like, what is so magnificent about Johnny Depp's performance or character here that it really does the series for you? If you're one of those persons out there, it really isn't that interesting as people make it out to be.
It is as interesting as people make it out to be, in my opinion.
You know what would have been interesting to do with this character? To make a complete mockery of this type of very streamlined, very gentle, very not taking risk type of films. Just making a mockery of the whole Hollywood movie industry via the character, and you kind of see small little glimpses there of that. And the third film sorta kinda does a couple of scenes that might even drag you that way, but it never throws the full punches.
If you ask from Disney, on the other hand, it does precisely that. It actually does too much of that.
Yeah.
Like said, like, the way how Depp ended up portraying Jack Sparrow went completely against what, for example, Disney and Will Eisner would have mandated Jack Sparrow to be. Jack Sparrow was originally written with something like Hugh Jackman or some other like very masculine male actor in mind, with the notion that you kind of would get this Hugh Jackman Wolverine-esque macho tough guy. And then what you have is Johnny Depp doing something where Disney does not know if Sparrow is drunk or if he's gay.
Good.
Or what the hell he is. So, like, Pirates 1, Jack Sparrow, that was way too risky for Disney. That was precisely going against anything that Disney would have wanted. Pirates 2 and 3, Jack Sparrow, then again, that is once again a Jack Sparrow that comes with the corporate seal of approval from Disney.
You know, if there's something to be said about these characters, like on the surface when you see them for the first time, you might make the quick assumption that they are very surfacey, but turns out most of them really aren't. There's quite a lot of power dynamics and power battles and changes in dynamics, who is now controlling the situation, and that just keeps shifting all the time according to the situation. and that's good. I also like the fact that Jack Sparrow's character, like you're describing him, like, or Disney's describing their confusion, like they don't know if it's a gay or what is he. That's all good if you can't quite put the finger on it.
And yet you hate the character, so...
No, I don't hate
gives?
the character. No, but
You venomously despise Depp's performance as Jack Sparrow and wish that Will Eisner would have had his crooked ways. So what gives?
No, I mean, Orlando Bloom should have taken over the role. No, but I think Jack Sparrow as a character is nowhere near as interesting as people make it out to be. I remember being in the theater and there was like maybe 15 to 18-year-old girls who are just giggling in the back row every time Jack Sparrow, Johnny Depp, comes on the screen and does something. So I guess it's really, really cute. That's what I had to endure there. And I was just thinking about that. What do they find about the character so interesting that they would experience such joy? But I think it's really about, like, they are just complete Johnny Depp fans. And that's about it.
I actually do have to come to defense of the female gender here.
Okay.
I do think that actually when it comes to Johnny Depp's portrayal of Jack Sparrow, there is quite a lot that you can get enjoyment of. It's wildly energetic, and it goes very much against the previously established, this is how you play a pirate character trope. He's nothing like Captain Blood or other these pirate captains from the 1950s. If something, I would say that Johnny Depp took more inspiration from the Muppet Treasure Island and the pirates of that. So he's fusing basically, kind of a child's movie version of a pirate captain with this extremely outlandish and an alcoholic adult version of a pirate captain. I would say that was something that we really hadn't seen. Like previous to that point, well, very much the only pirate captain that we had seen for quite some time was Gina Davis in Cutthroat Island. And Gina Davis plays that role very much more closer to the traditional way of playing a pirate. Very much more stoic and serious, whereas, well, Johnny Depp's portrayal just is pure and plain fun. And something that does not take the situations that he finds himself in too seriously.
That's true. That doesn't take situations too seriously. Some of those jokes are even pretty well written. But yeah, it's not like really the kind of character who, for better or worse, it's not the kind of character that is leading the show here for me, but is an entertaining thing to drop in there every once in a while. And will be more and more of that as the series goes on. By the third chapter, definitely I would say I haven't seen the fifth, but I think I saw the fourth. It's more and more about inserting these funny little comic book-like clips of him doing something outlandish and nonsensical, and then cut back to the real story.
Yeah, but that's more of a problem of the sequels and not so much of the first film, so to say. Or like I get the hesitation when it comes to Johnny Depp's Jack Sparrow, and I get that the character starts to be pretty damn irritating. Goddamn, I myself can't stomach the Jack Sparrow anymore in Pirates 4 or 5, which is the reason why when we are talking about doing the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, I strongly pushed against the idea of doing the entire series, because bloody hell, I'm not going to rewatch like parts 4 and 5 just to get an podcast episode out of it. I can watch the original trilogy, but that is as far as I'm willing to sacrifice myself for this podcast.
Let me guess, does it get more feeling as if it's more narcissistic or too self-centered? Or too much, in fact, just centered on that character?
There are a couple of reasons why they are so extremely bad. Actually, like to be precise, I would say 3 reasons. 3 obvious reasons, and then if you would really watch them and analyze them, you would find more, but I would say 3 main reasons. The first one is that, like you mentioned, it becomes way too centered on Johnny Depp's character. When Pirates 1 was filmed, if you look at it from the like screenplay, story, structural, technical point of view, like you mentioned, you actually notice that Captain Jack Sparrow is not the main character of Curse of the Black Pearl.
Mm-hmm.
The main character actually is Elizabeth Swann, in the sense that it's Elizabeth Swann who basically drives is tied into every action that drives the conflict forward. She picks up the medallion, which summons the pirates, which then kidnap her, so the rescue party has to be assembled. And later on, basically, the combat resolution is... people find themselves in positions because they are in relation to Elizabeth Swann. Will Turner would never break Jack Sparrow out of the jail, if not Elizabeth Swann. Norrington would never actually side with Jack Sparrow to take out Barbossa, if not Elizabeth Swann, etc., etc., etc. And this is something that does change throughout basically the entire series. You already start to see how the focus starts to shift more and more to Depp's character already in parts 2 and 3, but oh blimey if that's not like full-blown ongoing in parts 4 and 5.
Yep.
And the same way how, well, Depp's character altogether is approached by Depp and the writers themselves also starts to shift. In Curse of the Black Pearl, as mentioned, Depp was very much going against the typical type how you play a pirate character. He was going against the trope, much to the irritation of Will Eisner and the Disney executives. However, come to Dead Man's Chest, these attitudes have changed. When Jack Sparrow was originally envisioned in Curse of the Black Pearl, the writers had envisioned Hugh Jackman and masculine action man character. What they got was Johnny Depp being weird with his hands to a point where Disney was wondering if the character was gay, and everybody was wondering why Jack Sparrow is the way how he is. But already in Dead Man's Chest, the approach had changed, and so had also, in my opinion, changed how the script writers were writing Jack Sparrow. They no longer were writing action man Jack Sparrow, who then gets turned by Depp into washed up rock star. They were now writing washed up, Johnny Depp is going to play washed up rockstar pirate Jack Sparrow, and that's basically how the character is being written from Dead Man's Chest onwards. Which means that the irritating parts of Jack Sparrow's character, they become more and more prominent. And it becomes more and more just jokey jokes. Mm. And basically Depp's artistry behind taking a character from the page and turning it into what you see on the screen becomes more and more pushed in the background, because Depp has less freedom as an actor, since the scriptwriters are now dictating what happens. And the second reason why, oh god, especially parts 4 and 5 are so extremely nauseatingly boring, is the fact that at the end of the day, if you really watch Pirates of the Caribbean movies, you actually realize that it's the same bloody movie kind of all over again. You have Jack Sparrow, you have the legendary Curse of the Black Pearl, you have a pirate, a diabolical supernatural pirate captain or sea captain somewhere. He has been cursed. The curse effect is that, well, you get to be immortal, but the curse also kind of makes immortality kind of a pain in the ass, so you kind of want to ditch it, but you don't want to ditch it in the wrong way. You have a MacGuffin somewhere, and they are all racing to find it, and it's hidden in the island where you find the clue to the next island, and what have you. It's basically, this is the building blocks of every film in this franchise. It's the same structure, just rewashed. Sometimes they change the name of the ship that the curse captain is sailing with. They change the curse a bit. They may be skeletons, they may be weird octopus guys, and walking hentais. They may be Javier Bardem with a wavy hair. But basically it's the same beats. And the third reason why 4 and 5 especially feel so bad is that by the time of 4 and 5, especially by the 5, everybody's so goddamn tired and nobody's giving a shit. Johnny Depp famously showed up on the sets drunk and had his lines fed to him through an earpiece that was hidden under his wig. And if you watch Jeffrey Rush, when they were filming Curse of the Black Pearl, Gore Verbinski complained that Rush as an actor is extremely suffocating personality because Rush cares too much about the characters he's playing. He calls you on weekends to ask, how do you feel about his idea how he will deliver this line? And you are at the grocery store and Rush will call you and ask, I've been thinking that perhaps I should do this thing with Barbosa. And you are at sauna and Rush shows up and he's like, how do you feel if I say arr really strongly in this scene? And Verbinski thought that was even somewhat suffocating. It was exhausting to him. But that was like the intensity, and that was the commitment that Rush brought to the character. And then you look at Jeffrey Rush in Pirates 5, and you can clearly see that he is past giving a shit. He's just vainly going through the emotions and waiting that that check will clear. Which I kind of understand. Like, come to Pirates 5, I wouldn't give a shit if I was Jeffrey Rush either. I wouldn't give a shit if I would be Johnny Depp. But, as a movie-going audience member, I still kind of demand that they would hide it better than they do. Because the tiredness is full-blown on screen when you watch the later entries.
Yeah. No surprise there. One thing that could have been maybe utilized a little bit better also in 1, 2, or 3 is the whole Caribbean in your Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Like, yes, we do see some lush jungles, at least in the second part. Maybe there was the Calypso home scene where we go in the middle of the jungle, but we are not really spending a lot of time in these magnificent locations. But yeah, sure, it's also Pirates of the Caribbean, so most of the time you would expect to spend at sea. But yeah, like, quite underutilized the whole Caribbean aspect, if you ask me. Also in the actors department, the part 1, 2, 3 at least, they have gone to the Caribbean locations as well, to some extent, but they're not utilizing, for example, Caribbean actors or anything. Like, very little of the Caribbean in your Caribbean pirate movie. But yeah, that's kind of a minor problem, perhaps. But there is Zoe Saldana playing Anna Maria, and Naomi Harris, who appears in part 2 and 3 as the Calypso character. Other than that, I'm not sure if there's any Caribbean actors. It's always a good opportunity in these moments to take advantage of the local cast scene. It's rarely utilized.
Yeah, I can't answer to that myself either. Like the ship crews, they do have black pirates in them, but like where they are originating from, I didn't actually check out.
Well, that's true. Yeah, there is some black pirates there. From what I gather, the black pirates could have been 50 or more, 60 and more percentage of the entire crew during the 15th and 16th century. So in that sense, I guess there could have been even more black faces. But yeah, rather hilarious to look at online videos about the subject matter that, yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean actually got pirates kinda right. And then you look at the movie and you're like, CGI tentacle monsters.
Well, they do address the point that pirates themselves, as a group, was quite multicultural bunch. Like, you did have piracy coming from basically all corners of the world at that time period. And that is something that, Pirates of the Caribbean, for better or worse, and it's not a huge praise for these movies, but it does at least show you that. It shows you pirate crews also other than, blonde-haired and blue-eyed Americans and Brits.
Yeah, thank goodness we have some variety.
Yeah, you have a Frenchman for, 3 scenes.
Yeah, and Naomi Harris, who tries really hard to sell the Caribbean accent. Well, she has some Caribbean roots there, but I don't know. It's okay, I guess. But what's the substance? What to do with these movies, Henrik? What are you holding in your hand, figuratively speaking, after the experience of watching 1, 2, 3, or at least the first part? What do you get out of it? We kind of touched upon the thing that we have characters who have a multitude of objectives depending on the situation. They have different and quite varied dynamics with the different characters, and that may contribute to these movies being interesting to watch at times. It might also contribute to fatigue in the audience of what the fuck is going on at any given point in time.
Once again, I would say that that's dependent on what entry in the franchise you are looking at. If you watch
later ones.
Yeah. Because if you watch Curse of the Black Pearl, that in its setup and framework is extremely kind of a simple movie. Certainly, there are constant backstabs happening, but the backstabs are still easy to comprehend. It's always one faction backstabbing the next at a time. And the real fatigue problem, in my opinion, starts to come from somewhere at the words in onwards, where it's backstab inside of a backstab inside of a backstab, and where the motives of the characters start to become so convoluted that it's basically it's not impossible, but it's extremely taxing to try to keep track on what it is that these people are after on this particular scene. Unlike in the first one, where it's constantly clear that they want to everybody wants to get into the Cookie Island, where Elizabeth is heading with the mystical cursed gold, and Jack Sparrow needs to get a ship from somewhere before he can get into the island. And that's basically just the small, closely knit circle around which the whole thing revolves around. And then once they get to the mystical island, well, then it's just who gets Will Turner's blood.
Yeah, the subtleties of the second and third film, especially the third film, fall by the wayside or fall off board at some point, and then you're just at least I was okay, let's stick to the essentials here. Try to figure that one out. Not so much on what was happening with these characters just 15 scenes ago, and how does it relate to this final scene now with the tentacle monster. I guess there's a lot going on, something really fine grained that if you would keep digging, then it would kind of show you a deeper or a better movie in there, in a movie that is not so great. Yeah, you can have complicated dynamics that might be fun to follow in that sense, but doesn't necessarily guarantee that you have a fun time or a consistent plot device to follow.
And I do think that the problem that you're describing is actually Well, first and foremost, it is a script writing problem, but I do think that that's a script writing problem that we actually see quite often, especially when it comes to franchise script writing and when it comes to sequel script writing. The important thing to keep in mind is that when Curse of the Black Pearl was in production, nobody was envisioning it to become any kind of a franchise. Even the people making it were not actually making a franchise film. They were just like, Disney didn't want to have anything to do with the movie at first, so the people behind it were just counting on their blessings that they get to make this one pirate movie, and everybody was putting their bets on that it will be hugely successful at the box office, but it was to be one and done deal. And then the box office explosion happened, and all of a sudden Pirates of the Caribbean gets turned into a franchise. I do think that that's kind of where the problem starts to creep in script writing wise, because once you hit the franchise, once you hit the sequels, you run into kind of two problems that also hit the script writers of the sequels faced, which is like, first of all, since this is not a series that has been designed to be as such from the beginning, how do you evolve from that? What road do you take to expand on where you left the previous film? And in here, in my opinion, the scriptwriters at the Dead Man's Chest make the better of the two choices, where they decide that they will just try to focus on a completely new narrative and not forcibly expand the cursed skeleton pirates angle of Curse of the Black Pearl. The problem is that they didn't just find enough material to really go into completely new direction, and instead they more or less just took the blueprint of Curse of the Black Pearl and rehashed it into a living hentai sea monster movie that you have. The second one is that scriptwriters quite often, they start to get the temptation to, when they start to expand the universe, they also, for some odd reason, they wanna connect everything together. I don't know exactly why this is being done so typically, but this is something that you actually see in Dead Man's Chest and At the World's End, and also in the later sequels, where everything all of a sudden is tied into the backstory. Yeah. Black Pearl is not just a ship that Jack Sparrow captained, it's a ship that was raised from the oceans to him by David Jones. The compass that Jack Sparrow has is not just a compass that does not point to north. It's a compass that points at whatever it is that your heart desires most, given to him by Calypso.
Of course, what a convenient plot device.
Yeah, who is a god in a like, you know, human form, etc. Basically, every single trinket that the universe has now all of a sudden becomes some type of a magical instrument, because everything has to be somehow connected to everything else.
Yeah. And those magical qualities of, like, for example, already in the first one, you get to the treasure chest, and then they're kind of abusing the lore in a sense. Everybody's just having fun with the chest, like putting in coins and removing coins, and somebody dies and somebody survives, and it's kind of, yeah, I guess you could say that that's also goes into the whole Jack Sparrow trolling aspect inside the movie.
Kinda. At the same time, you can still see, like, in the first film, you can see the logical reasoning, who takes what out and why is coin put into that chest.
Yeah, but
it's still, thanks to the fact that it's simple enough narrative, it basically all ends up making sense.
It makes sense, but it's just that if you would have some magical element like that, you rarely see a situation where you would just go back and just repeat that as a plot point, unless you were trolling and just kind of taking the piss out of these pirate or horror stories. But yeah, it looks like they are quickly running out of ideas, or they just want to reintroduce some characters that already were there. I already was of the mind that when I saw the first part, Jeffrey Rush playing Barbossa, that this is a really, in a way, extremely cliched, but in other ways, a very memorable character. And kind of shame that they get rid of him in the first one, but no worries, at the end of the second one, he's back. And but this whole the second and third part, I believe they were kind of from the beginning designed to be like a two-parter thing. So I was wondering if you felt that the second and the third part could stand on their own enough.
As a films, no. As a combined piece, yeah, kind of, sorta.
Kind of, sort of, yeah.
Yeah, even though you do actually start to see that, well, pretty much everybody is giving up. Well, I don't know if saying giving up hope is the right statement to make, but everybody's interest is starting to wane in that come to the third part. And I don't mean this in the sense that you still see I don't care about doing this fatigue in the actors' performances.
Yeah.
But you do see this, for example, in scripts where one comedic set piece, it just gets stretched further and further and further. The moments when Jack Sparrow is in the David Jones locker takes forever. It's, 2 or 3 times longer than the final sword fight at the end of a Curse of the Black Pearl. Or at least it feels like 50 times longer than the final sword fight at the end of the Curse of the Black Pearl. And you also see, in my opinion, that fatigue reaction also, well, for example, when it comes to the special features on the DVDs. The first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, it has 3 commentary tracks in the special features. You have Corver Pinsky and Johnny Depp as one, then you have Keira Knightley and Jack Davenport as a second, and then you have the third track, which is the writers. And then come the second film, and you have only the writers' commentary track, which ends with the writer stating that, we'll see you on the commentary track on the third film. And the third film has no commentary track whatsoever. Okay. And this is actually so lazy that even, in my version of Ultimate Trilogy collection of these films, which has a special back cover leaflet which is there to list all the special features that you get with the discs in your Ultimate Trilogy collection box. They actually list the special features completely wrong. They are labeled to be in wrong discs, and also they list features that just do not exist at all. When it comes to that, the words end, the back cover leaflet promises to you that, there are audio commentaries to be found, and none exists. So basically coming from that types of laziness, that's kind of what I see when I look at the parts 2 and 3. And when I talk about that, when it came to the production, people's interests towards the movies perhaps started to wane. Disney's interest towards actually really making sure that everything is as it should be starts to wane. And those are the kind of examples that I'm looking at, and evidence that I'm looking at when I'm making that statement. Come to, like already mentioned, come to parts 4 and especially parts 5. That is the point in the sad afterlife of Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, where you see that also the actors are now beyond giving a shit.
What about Johnny Depp and his performance? Isn't it kind of the same thing? He might be in love with his character, so he keeps reappearing in the franchise. Or at least if enough money is thrown at him, at the character that Disney didn't really care for in the beginning.
Yeah, I can't say what type of a ball-busting contractual gridlock Disney has managed to trap its talent. you have heard rumors about the actors' contracts when it comes to the Marvel movies. I don't know exactly how heinous they were come to Pirates of the Caribbean sequels. But if it's not like Disney is basically holding a Luger on your pet dog's head and threatening to pull the trigger unless you bloody well do what they demand and act in a yet another Pirates of the Caribbean film, in that case, yeah, it's just purely the case of, collecting the check, which I, like mentioned, I can kind of understand. If you're Johnny Depp or you're Jeffrey Rush, the check most likely is worth millions.
Yep.
And I can kind of understand the human effect of you wanting those money for less than year's work, even though you don't really care anymore, and you are just tired to be here, and you are just going arr, just like you have done, every film previously. I can kind of understand that, but at the same time, as a movie-going audience, I can't accept the fact that you don't hide it better. You're a professional actor. It's okay if you don't care, but the audience shouldn't be able to tell that you don't care.
Even by the third movie, it feels like it's even more desperate, the franchise, to milk Johnny Depp for whatever he might be worth on the screen. These scenes that multiply his character in a couple of hallucinated scenes, and it goes more into that said comedic relief. So whenever the movie feels that it's about to fall asleep, it seems that it's cutting back to Jack Sparrow just to do something stupid and then continue with the business as usual. It became a little bit overboard with this 20 different Johnny Depps in a scene. I didn't find it funny or entertaining.
No, but you can find it interesting in a, behind the scenes Hollywood production logic-wise. Because what you are seeing in those moments, you are seeing the resurface of old Hollywood truisms and lessons not learned anywhere alongside the process.
Yeah, it's I don't know if it's a fair comparison, but when I was watching that, it just reminded me of a scene from Jurassic Park 3 where there's a velociraptor saying "Alan" in a dream. So it's this kind of a bit of a cheapening of the characters when you start to do these kind of, in my opinion.
I would say it's closer what was the latest Jurassic World movie that we watched?
Yeah,
Evolution, the Kingdom, was it Kingdom?
The thingy where the dinos are supposed to escape their island habitat by the end, or the lab, or whatever it was.
The one that had the new and the old cast.
Yeah, that one.
I would say that it's kind of a closer to that than, because Alan Velociraptor in Jurassic Park 3, that still was somewhat funny and inventive. But when we are talking about Hollywood truisms, we are just looking at the absolutely kind of most cynical and most not even trying to approach this movie from an artistic viewpoint kind of mentality.
Yeah, it was Jurassic World Dominion.
Yeah. When it comes to to harken back to this, the whole background behind the scenes shenanigans of Pirates of the Caribbean, the first one. When Eisner didn't want to do that film, it may, looking at the situation today, that may look like an absolute crazy person action. Why wouldn't you wanna do Pirates of the Caribbean? God damn, it made gazillion bucks on box office, and it spawned 4 sequels, and even more are coming when Jerry Bruckheimer just manages to get parts 6 and 7 into pre-production. So it, looking at the situation now, it's kind of insane. Will Eisner being so against pirates. But if you look at it from the perspective of Will Eisner back in the day, even though you don't have to say, and I don't think that you even should say that Eisner's logic was right, but you can kind of understand his hesitation coming from a brain-dead Disney executive logic. Because Eisner was basically operating on Hollywood truisms. He was coming from a point where Disney had lost a considerable amount of money from a bunch of network purchases that had gone tits-up, for buying Go.com in hopes of creating its own search engine like Google, until Disney realized that creating a search engine is actually too hard for them, and they abandoned that project, but the money was already spent. They had a bunch of failed animated films like the Atlantis one and Treasure Planet, and Eisner had made a really big financial gambit when financing the war action movie Pearl Harbor, which was a movie that in no way could blow up on his face. And the end result was a movie that destroyed Bruckheimer's and Michael Bay's cooperation completely, and also put a whole bunch of careers into deep freeze. So Eisner had gambled a lot of money, Disney money, on ventures that had not paid off. And come to Pirates, all of a sudden Eisner is in a situation where he has to somehow be able to promise the shareholders at Disney that, this year money will finally come and the losing streak is over. So come from that, and then meeting with Bruckheimer and Cook to talk about a pirate movie, it coming from the genre that hadn't been really popular at box office since 1950s, and the previous one trying to attempt a pirate movie would have been Cutthroat Island, which was such of a big flop that it actually bankrupted its production house. Or Cutthroat Island wasn't as big of a flop. Carol just made a really brain-dead bet and was betting too much of its already losing business into the fact that Cutthroat Island would just be a magical moneymaker. But anyways, Cutthroat Island had a film that still has a notorious legacy in Hollywood circles. So you're losing money, your friends come to you and they try to sell you a movie from a genre that that Hollywood has learned you shouldn't be trying to do unless you wanna lose money. And also the fact that the film is based on Disney ride movies being something that Disney hadn't been able to make profitable, ever, outside of Pirates of the Caribbean. This is the only franchise that actually is based on a Disney ride and has made profit. And also the fact that Will Eisner himself, when he was head of Paramount, he had tried his to dip his own toes in historical adventure films, and at a historical Sandal epic when he was producing the 1985 version King David with Richard Gere, which also was a notorious box office flop. And true to Hollywood truisms, the lesson that Will Eisner took from all of this was not that, King David was just a bad movie. The lesson was that people don't care about historical epics and historical adventure movies. And they don't care about pirate movies, and they most definitely will never ever care about a movie that is based on a Disney ride. So even though his logic is faulty, evidently his logic is wrong, but you can kind of see what type of a brain damage Eisner is operating from. And the only reason why Pirates of the Caribbean ever actually got into pre-production, partly it was because, Bruckheimer, Verbinski and Depp went off the script and started the production on their own, but also because, Ridley Scott in 2000 made Gladiator and managed to prove that, Sandal, a historical adventure epic, can actually make a box office profit. So Curse of the Black Pearl has a huge debt to pay the Scotch Gladiator. To a point where if you actually listen to the soundtracks of the two movies, you actually found that they are extremely similar. So even in that way, the old Hollywood truisms, once again, they hold true. And the lesson that Disney took was try to do what Gladiator did. To a point where you are, well, I'm not saying like copying note to note from Gladiator's soundtrack, but still playing extremely strong homage. And coming from like that viewpoint, like coming from the brain-dead Hollywood truisms that were trying to stop Pirates 1 from being made. When Pirates 1 made gazillion dollars at the box office, it meant that Disney and Eisner, they were not willing to learn a lesson from that success. The lesson that perhaps you should some days and sometimes just trust the artists to do their art and take these gambles, and perhaps your idea that people just don't care about historical adventure epics is perhaps it's not true. Instead of learning that lesson, what he learned is that Hollywood truisms actually work, and the only thing that you need to make a successful pirate sequel is just Johnny Depp doing more of that shit, and more cursed pirates, and more epic vessels, and more sword fights that go forever, and more overlong bits where Johnny Depp can do whatever it is, and one Johnny Depp is not enough, let's have 3 or 5 Johnny Depps on a screen all the time. It's basically like the problem is still the same. It's the old Hollywood truisms. And the fact that Hollywood production machine and Disney as a company just refuses to learn from its own past, its own mistakes and its own successes. And it's as fascinating as it is also infuriating. It's kind of like you're looking at a dumb kid who is just like wetting its own diapers and stucking crayons on its nose, and you are trying to tell him like just stop doing that, but oh god, the Hollywood kid is just way too stupid.
Speaking of repeating mistakes and soundtracks, I find that the music is out of place in all of these movies as well. Like whether it's the timing or just the style or the monotony. Now, I'm not really the guy to speak in depth about music for sure, but the heroic horns and the dudes and this massive choir thing just gets tacked on to anything actiony, regardless of what's going on. And I find that extremely nauseating and tiresome. And we've seen that already so many times before, but it's not even serving any kind of a rhythm or sense of, oh, this music is definitely supporting this scene. It's not that. It's just in the background as some kind of noise. And because it's not rhythmically playing together with the from shot to shot, in my opinion, it just becomes noise, even though there might be some music to be heard there, but it just doesn't raise there because the movie and the music don't support each other like at all. It's so goddamn basic and boring. Hans Zimmer was chosen as the second and the third film's musician. You definitely cannot hear that. There's nothing to be said with the music, in my opinion. The first one was with what's his name? The Klaus Badelt, the German guy, took the music reins there. All in all, sounds very samey.
Yeah, but when it comes to like the music adding something to the story, well, if we are to go to with Hans Zimmer's words, he tries to make the music to actually add something to the scenes. He has given interviews where he's explaining how he was composing the fight scenes of the movie. And there are these snippets where he's telling you that, I start with, the theme of the East India Trading Company's soldiers. And then I cross it with the theme of David Jones's Pirates, and then which theme you are hearing is supposed to change depending on which side is having the upper hand in the battle and so forth and so forth. Does this work? Well, that's kind of basically everybody's cup of tea. I have the same problem that you did that. I kind of just didn't notice Hans Zimmer's score in the sequels.
Yeah.
I still the original Pirates of the Caribbean theme, that is something that actually was effective for me.
That's fine.
Yeah. That is something that stuck in my mind, and I still remember some of the notes from that one. But when it comes to the sequels, Hans Zimmer has explained how he approached composing the soundtrack for the films, and he has explained what he was aiming at with that soundtrack. But my experience is the same as yours. That it just becomes basically just background noise that you immediately filter out.
Yeah, I kept actively thinking, what would these movies feel like if the style of music and the pacing of the music would be completely upended? Try something new. Go with Kraftwerk, or try something different, or just have the different speed or different feel, different dynamics for different scenes and different shots, and then make the music react to what is happening in the sword fight instead of just going with the when we are looking at ghost pirates that are undying, fighting against the human counterparts. A bit like, what are you doing?
But throwing something like Kraftwerk once again, like to bang on the old drum, but that would have required for you to actually trust the artist in that moment, instead of following the Hollywood truisms and just copying Gladiator's soundtrack because it worked for Gladiator.
Yeah, we're talking about Disney here, who already had problem with Johnny Depp's character, so hey ho. Okay, is there a performer you would like to highlight? Or who's the performance pedestal winner for tonight?
Well, I'm gonna be cliched like Pirates of the Caribbean sequels, and I'm gonna give it to Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
Man did win an Oscar nomination from his performance in Curse of the Black Pearl.
He did, or weird, but he did. And I will still go with Johnny Depp, no matter how much you would care for the performance in like a big scheme of things, but the Oscars are Oscars. They make interesting decisions. Hey, okay, yes, there is personality to be found in Johnny Depp's performance, and that's why I'm choosing it as well. And just might be the thing why we go to cinema, if we go at all, to watch the sixth part.
It's like a pirate's treasure. You find you find the value in Johnny Depp's performance once your friend actually helps you to just dig long enough and hard enough.
What worked across the three movies?
What worked across the three movies? Basically nothing. But to name something that worked, especially in the first one, would be, I just really enjoyed the action. When it's once again, like we are now looking at the situation post Pirates of the Caribbean 5, when we are all tired and sad by the possibility of a new Pirates of the Caribbean film. We have reached the point when if they ever announce Pirates of the Caribbean 6 coming out in theaters, none of us wants to see it.
No thanks.
Yeah, and coming from that point, it's kind of hard to remember how it felt when Pirates of the Caribbean Curse of the Black Pearl originally landed. But back in the day, it was really a real shock in the arm. It was something that not just reinvigorated the cinema-going experience, it also reinvigorated the adventure movie genre altogether. It was a promise that you can have an adventure movie that is not Lord of the Rings and what was the other major franchise that they had going on at that time. So it's like looking back at the feeling, looking back how it felt to see Curse of the Black Pearl, and kind of how it holds up on the rewatch. I have to say that, the action and the adventure work, and I do get a kick out of all the backstabbing that happens in the first film. There's a bunch of nonsense in the sequels, but in the first film, I would say that it's not perfect action adventure movie, but it is still pretty damn good. It's not as good as necessary as Raiders of the Lost Ark or The Last Crusade, but it's at least on par with Temple of Doom.
Jack Sparrow worked. There is that subverting of archetypes and blending comedic physicality, making it unpredictable, and subtle vulnerability, especially in the later ones, and some reveals about the character's possible true motives by the end of the third. So I do like that mixing up the stereotypes and trying to make something unpredictable, and that worked. That you are taking kind of archetypal at first glance characters, but then giving them certain depth. But what did not work then?
Basically, the overblowing the entire structure of Curse of the Black Pearl in the sequels, rehashing the same stuff time after time after time again, trying to desperately to make it bigger and grander and more explosive and more noisy and more everything as you went on. And at the same time, sticking true to your Hollywood truisms and actually forgetting the whole fact that you should have what made the Pirates of the Caribbean successful in the first place. The fact that the artists were able to stick their heads and just do the art that they wanted, despite what Disney or Will Eisner was telling them.
And then on the other hand, on my part, you can argue that there's a lot of character dynamics going on, power dynamics here that make some of these films interesting to follow, but then at the end you're questioning, what are we doing? What is the film? What are you? Who do you want to be? Are you a ghost story now? Are you a superhero movie? Are you a simple comedy or something about pirates? But clearly it's like a mixture. It's all in the same movie, and it seems almost arrogant to say, well, but we've got this pirates movie plot, but we have no faith in just keeping it as a simple pirates movie plot. So let's throw out all the guns that we have at the Disney disposal. Whether it's some alien creatures, something ghost related, or just a random appearance of Kraken out of nowhere just to, get the plot moving somewhere. And I think the movies are so goddamn overlong. They could perhaps benefit from some editing. Although I know it's already like tightly edited in a sense, but maybe there could be a chance to get rid of some plot points entirely. Perhaps the rather half-assed Calypso romance story in the third one. Do something about that. Maybe concentrate more on what that third movie was about, which gets kind of wishy-washy.
Altogether, the whole character of Calypso is something that could be removed and nothing would be lost.
Oh yeah.
It's half a movie of a build-up, and eventually what you get is like, I don't know, a little bit of stormy clouds and a water vortex.
Yeah, like a Yeah, which is, of course, a great CGI masterwork at the time. Nobody had done it before, so yeah, it's something to behold if you watch the official documentaries. But also Dead Man's Chest has similar types of trouble, not to the extent of At World's End, but Dead Man's Chest also suffers from some plot complexity and pacing, and it relies on that cliffhanger ending to get the masses back to the theater for the kind of a part 2 of the two-parter. Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, then there is that narrative overload, there is, I don't know if exactly inconsistent tone, but there is a lot of jumping back and forth on what we're concentrating on, and by the end quite confusing motivations from the character, and the excessive running time of definitely the second and the third becomes a problem. Describe the film in one word, would you please?
My chosen word is swashbuckling, and I mean that in both senses. It's a swashbuckling. It's a swashbuckling as a praise for the first film, and for parts 2 and 3. Well, the Finnish definition for swashbuckler is something that translates into reckless adventurer. And I do think that even though I won't say that swashbuckling as a praise for parts 2 and 3, I do still hold to that adjective in the reckless adventurer sense. Because even in parts 2 and 3, no matter what happens, no matter do you like the movies or not, you can't deny that there is not some reckless adventuring happening there in those films.
I will say that the overall taste in the mouth is labyrinthine or labyrinthine, with this overlapping and jumpy plots between the characters and their own motivations. There's a lot there to chew on. And I would say that, again, I will not take blame for myself that I am not grasping all of what is going on with their little intricacies in the third one. I'm not taking blame for that. I'm rather saying that there's just too much going on, and especially the third one should figure out what the hell is it about. Focus on that. Just like the line in that movie, or was it in the second one? I like that. Keep it simple. It's very understandable when you just keep it simple. I would urge you to complete the sentence for tonight. You really know you're watching Pirates of the Caribbean 1, 2, and 3 when?
When your adventurous pirates come from sad and depressed rapists and murderers, and turn into sad and depressed murderers, kind of like real pirates.
When the action scenes are like what porn scenes were for a Moon TV porn movie critic, he would find the actual fucking scenes so boring after watching many of these movies that he'd fast forward them and jump instead to the dialogue parts. That's what I feel like doing when watching the action scenes for Pirates of the Caribbean for some of the time. Don't hate me, Henrik.
For what, exactly?
For being brutally honest here.
I'm used to you having wrong ideas. Me desperately having to try to correct your wrong thing here. I'm already lost the cause.
Then this next question is really pointless, but I'm gonna ask it anyway, just for the course. Did you like the film? I would say film. Maybe not necessarily films, but off you go.
Yeah, I did. Honestly, I still find it tremendous fun.
The first is okay, I guess. The second and third one is the Hollywood machinery asking for your bucks. The first one is somewhat worthwhile, but then again, I mean, there would be not much there if there would not be Johnny Depp, I'll give you that much. It would just not work with Orlando Bloom or Jonathan Pryce. Giving you a pretty basic like rescue operation or fighting against the ghost pirates in this case. Oh well. Did you or would you ever rewatch the films?
Part 1, yeah. Can't say same for 2 and 3.
No. I've seen one enough. I'm usually not the kind of person who would go back to the previous films unless they would have like a certain value from the past. Yeah, I've seen this as 5-year-old, 7-year-old. I want to see how I experience it now as an adult thing. I've seen Pirates of the Caribbean now like 3 or 4 times. It was a big thing. It was the movie that was just lying there, and my sisters would watch it every now and then on DVD, and I was like, yeah, whatever. If there's nothing better to do, then let's watch this film for the millionth time. The second and third one, nope, hard skip, thank you.
So despite the fact that you, for the entire episode, you have tried to come off like, oh yeah, I'm so used to all of this, I don't really care about Pirates of the Caribbean at all. I'm just doing the episode here. But still, it's turns out that it's the movie that you've actually seen, like, one of the most watched movies you have outside of Bond films.
Nah. But it was the early 2000s. Sometimes you had nothing else to do than to just watch those DVD collections.
You just keep telling that to yourself, man. I know that like deep inside of your persona of a completely emotionally dried up husk who is only walks forward on forces of bitterness and contempt. You still somewhere deep inside under that mask you enjoyed the film.
Somewhere deep inside, I've died a little bit more by watching Pirates of the Caribbean on this podcast. And lost my hope on Hollywood and movies in general, even further. Into the abyss I go.
Okay, in that case, I take that as a promise that we don't have to watch Brutalist. Has all those Hollywood actors in it.
Ah, yeah. Good lord. Adrian Brody, Guy Pearce.
It's like the next hot thing in movie pop circles at the moment. It's rumored to be one of the strongest Oscar contenders, this year.
Ah,
that movie.
Sounds like the movie to avoid then. You've made me quite pessimistic about the whole. If I wasn't already pessimistic enough about the Hollywood machinery, you've made me even worse on that department.
No. This is damage that you have done all by yourself to yourself.
With some support, we have done the Oscars episodes. We have discussed the Oscars films. We have discussed some hit films that just quite didn't fit both of our palettes. But hey, would you recommend the films then?
I would most definitely recommend the first one. When it came out, it was a game changer for the Hollywood landscape, same as was the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So, and Gladiator on its own time. So in that sense, I do think that the first film most definitely is something that most people, outside of the lizard men hiding underneath human skin like Karri here, is going to enjoy. So, in that sense, I do recommend Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl, in case you haven't seen it already, which most likely you have. When it comes to the sequels, I can't really recommend them. They are not completely without the merits when it comes to like looking at them as a discussion piece about Hollywood truisms and Hollywood filmmaking. And in a way, like I already joked about, Pirates of the Caribbean and the real pirates, but in a way, like I stick behind my point that, you know, as the movies themselves and as the franchise itself turns more and more sad and depressed, it comes more and more closer to what pirate life really was. Because most likely, if you were on a pirate ship, you had been shanghaied from somewhere else, from some port or some other ship. And you were surrounded by criminals, and your daily life was hard work and sea air and eating fish and loneliness and depression and overall madness around you. And your only hope was that you actually gonna find some mercantile vessel that you can then raid. And perhaps, you know, get a little bit cold that you can then drink down in the next port and spend the rest of them on cheap women. So that was like the pirate life for reality. And in that sense, you know, seeing the first, coming from the first movie and seeing how this franchise it starts with the first-hand excitement of, oh my god, we are going to have these adventures, and it just comes into sad and depressed and emotionally dead thing at the end. It's kind of like the franchise itself is an emotional documentary in that sense. And that's kind of fascinating to watch. But at the same time, like, looking at the sad half-life of this franchise, it's also kind of a heartbreaking to witness. And it's heartbreaking to see how Hollywood machine and Disney in particular is dead set on not actually learning anything from the Curse of the Black Pearl. The lesson you should have taken is, like, take a risk on the artists and believe in their vision. That way you can make a gazillion bucks. And what they ended up learning was exactly the opposite. Don't trust the artists at all and just keep rehashing. Try to find a blueprint once again from the curse. And just keep on repeating it as in an endless cycle. Once again, as a talking point about Hollywood truisms and how the machine works, that may be kind of exciting, or at least educational, but that's still not, like, that's... I still can't actually recommend that you go through the punishment of watching the later films on this franchise, just so that you can have a discussion and perhaps learn something really demoralizing about how Hollywood machine operates. But the first film, yeah, that's great movie. That I do recommend to folks.
Admit it. It's junk food. It's Hollywood junk food. The little entertainment, but also with very little substance.
Well, yeah, it's junk food, but goddamn, I like to eat at McDonald's at times. I never went to watch Curse of the Black Pearl thinking that I'm watching the bloody Schindler's List here. Same way, like, I don't watch Arnold Schwarzenegger movies and think that, oh yeah, I go down, I'm gonna get a philosophical think piece for myself. No, much like, you know, something like it's for me it's kind of in the same vein, even though not nearly as exciting as what was Terminator 2, so to say. Like, when you look at it, also a junk food film, but it does have the philosophical elements in it. It does have depth, and in my opinion, like, Curse of the Black Pearl, junk food, but it does have the backstabs, and it does have... It doesn't really have a philosophical element in it, but it does have the backstabs, which are smart enough that I get the Big Mac meal that I enjoy, but I'm under no illusions that it is still a Big Mac meal.
Yeah, what we have in all of these movies are not very exciting choreography from what I see. Not so very interesting sword fights with supernatural elements, ghost pirates, moonlight transformation, which get in the territory of from your looking glass. Again, might be different, but for me it's a rather absurd. And the use of these terms like parley, which have been already criticized as historically and logically implausible scenarios to begin with. So very much junk food. Sword fights, as already mentioned, I think they are dull and they lack suspense. The dialogue at times can be cliché and forgettable, even cringeworthy. More in the sequels, you have these moments with very huge bravado, and these different characters are packed in the same room, and they all have some antagonistic ideas towards each other. And everyone's talking so theatrical that it's really getting on my nerves sometimes. Like, what are you trying to do? Like, are you trying to convince me that you're pissed off, or are you trying to convince me that this is bad acting? Anyway.
Didn't like the parts 2 and 3 teach you that you shouldn't carve out your own heart, man?
Yeah.
Because that's what has happened here in your code in joyless existence that can't even find the fun in the first film. I'm full on your side. Like I too hate all of the sequels, but the first film, I'm kind of wondering how do you even like get up from the bed at mornings, man.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, the sequels have, in some fashion, tarnished also the experience of the first one. The first one is like, it has a proper beginning, it has a proper end. But yeah, all this lacking historical authenticity throughout the whole Verbinski trilogy, the plots being overly long, and the special effects. I don't see what people are really talking about when they're so excited about the CGI of the time. Like, yeah, tentacle monsters and stuff, and it's still very CGI. Again, I'm pointing the finger more at the sequels that make that, supernatural characters even more the center point here.
But the hentai creature design, in my opinion, was still like really nice. Like yeah. CGI is all hell. I'm not denying that, but the design of the monsters was. They were quite good looking and weird looking monsters, and I did appreciate that.
Yeah, it's just still at the end of the day, it's a careful movie. It's an overlong movie. It's a movie where Johnny Depp gets a lot of attention for sure, but as insofar as it's an interesting character, it's also a character that could have been pushed way more 90 degrees to some direction, such as taking the absolute piss out of Hollywood. But then, if you're dealing with Disney, you're not gonna get that anyways. You're just gonna get these more carefully calculated movies. And so even before you go to the cinema, you want to check if it's produced by, in any way touched by Disney. Then, I mean, at least my first gut reaction is first like, do I even want to watch this? Because it's going to be kid-friendly, because it's going to be calculated, because it's going to want to be careful, because it's not going to be innovative, because it's not going to be interesting for film buffs like you and me, I would think, in most scenarios. So, no, I would not recommend 1, 2, or 3.
Kind of harsh words coming from a dude who does not rewatch movies, but did watch part 1 like 3 times.
Yeah, under duress.
I'm telling you, people. Well, the last time when you had to rewatch the film, that was solely on you. Like I admit, I put the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy like as one of like 8 movies, that 8 possible topics that I offer that we can at some point visit on this podcast. But it was amongst like 8 possible. Like that meant that I was pushing it to a like Wheel of Fortune wheel.
Yeah.
I wasn't saying that we have to do this, and then you spun the wheel. repeatedly, and it never landed on Pirates of the Caribbean. So the universe itself was telling you not to actually revisit Pirates of the Caribbean. But you insisted, man. You insisted. So the last rewatch, that's solely on you.
Yeah, that's true. I was feeling like maybe I was too harsh on the movies and maybe I want to revisit them, and unfortunately the feelings that I had when I was a teenager have not changed since. I may be a little bit more lenient towards the first one, but alas, sorry Disney, no recommendation.
More lenient towards the film that you still rewatched. Completely contrary to your typical cinema typical cinema habits.
I might be full of contradictions, as are these movies, and in the case of the second one, heartless.
So, folks, don't be like Karri and watch the first movie. That's
okay. I will add that caveat. Yeah, if you're gonna watch anything out of these movies, then watch the first one. But hey, that's kind of starting to wrap up that, if that's possible. A lot of things could be said and included. Still, if you have material,
well, we can touch upon your points of historical authenticity, and if that is correct, and if the film is as historically authentic as it actually can be, coming from movie audiences, because historical authenticity is something that the scriptwriters themselves have addressed, and they have freely admitted that the way how they depict pirates is not historically accurate, to say the least. Like, the only historically accurate aspect of here is the fact that, they apparently really did love rum, but outside of that, the scriptwriters freely have admitted that, pirates were like thieves and murderers and rapists, the whole lot of them. But at the same time, they felt that they were kind of a strong-armed, or that Hollywood has already, through its own machinery, it has shaped the more romanticized version of the pirates.
That could be an episode of its own to discuss if it's fair to romanticize pirates as we are seeing here. Or would it actually be more correct to title it as, I don't know, rapists of the Caribbean?
It is a fair point to throw, because that's really what they were. And rape was something that actually did happen in pirate circles, or was committed by pirates. So we are not just calling them rapists just in order to be edgy here. Yeah. But at the same time, like, there is the audience expectation to get the romanticized version of the pirate. So it's kind of like like you said, it becomes a talking point of its own. How strongly you as a writer, how much you are controlled by the audience's expectations and the audience's need for and want for the romanticized depiction of the pirate, and how much you should, as a scriptwriter, to push against that want and demand and try to give the more realistic depiction of piracy. And also, the whole question of, like, where does that lust for the romanticized pirate, where does it come from? Is it just purely and solely, the fault of a Hollywood machine and decades of producing romanticized pirate media and books like Treasure Island? Or is it just something that, is it a sign that there is some type of a fault in us? Are we just naturally somehow lenient towards the more romanticized idea of these extremely terrible persons? And from that question, you could draw a larger question. Is this a problem that we only have when it comes to our relationship with pirates and piracy, or is it a larger problem that also would show up, for example, in how we approach Second World War Nazis? Are we humanizing them too much or too little? What are we doing? And is there some type of a psychological reason why we end up kind of doing this? Why do we romanticize at the end harmful institutions and individuals?
We do have individuals that we call pirates even today, and they do share similar traits to the ones that we romanticize today from the yesteryears. So maybe that's one looking glass. Like, would you like to romanticize the current pirates?
Yeah, that's actually a good point. We actually pretty much demonize one continent based on our hesitancy to romanticize modern day pirate, which is not really that different from the pirate of the yesteryear.
There you go. Well, tell me quickly, in which order would you put these movies?
Well, the first one of course is the first. It's the best, hands down. It's kind of a tough call between 2 and 3 because they are so tightly tied together. Like they are. This is once again. This is plain and simple. That really annoying.
Yes.
Which I hated to my guts. Hollywood trend of we made one film and then we just splice it in 2.
Yeah.
To squeeze out even more fun bucks out of our audiences.
And hey, this is kind of one of the moments where I felt like, are we reviewing TV series or movies here?
It is the grand scale we are telling this goddamn multi-part narrative thingy that is raising its head once again. It makes really hard to actually talk about the movies that does this thing as an individual films because it's hard to see them as individual films. Much like your comment about are these movies or is this a TV series? You can't really tell parts 2 and 3 separate from each other, like individual movies. And the same thing is, for example, with the latest Star Wars trilogy. Yeah. Where especially like the first film, The Force Awakens, it's a movie that can't stand on its own 2 legs. And the last movie, what was it now? Revenge of the Jedi or something.
Yeah, there's way too many Star Wars movies and TV series. I can't keep up.
Yeah, but the same thing, like that trilogy can't stand. Like it's a trilogy, so it's 3 movies, and the movies can't stand as individual films no longer because because once again the driving idea is that we are making this mega experience, this mega narrative where every movie is basically one episode of it, and therefore they are no longer individual films. So because of that, it's hard to say. Well, also with pirates, like how parts 2 and 3 how they compare to each other. I'm gonna say like at world's end is second place because because David Jones dies in it, so it closes up bloody something, whereas Dead Man's Chest just ends up in a giant ass cliffhanger, which you already know like nothing's going to stay. Jack Sparrow dies and the film ends telling you that Jack Sparrow is not dead. So, because of that, at world's end gets the second place. At least it bloody ends.
I will have to go with the first one obviously being the first one, and the second one being the second one, third one being the third one. One part is that it's the old legacy of me experiencing at world's end in the theaters as far as I remember, because that makes sense. That has to be the one because David Jones is not appearing anymore in the 4th and the 5th one, if I understand correctly. Therefore, it was the third one that really started to piss me off in the end battle, and I did fall asleep in the theater during that. That's one thing. And I think second one is much easier and more concise to follow than the third one, so I'm sticking to that. I'm also offering you something to stick with. Jurassic World Rebirth is coming out soon. We can talk about that.
I do know that as this podcast we are meant to be completionists.
I'm kidding.
Okay, because I'm not actually certain if I can physically watch another Jurassic World film.
Remember how we were discussing? You were pretty adamant that no, they're not gonna go into the wild. They're just gonna go back to the cage, and so they do.
Yeah, so they do, because goddamn, in that franchise nothing ever changes. I hope you look back at the Velociraptor auction moment when they were selling them as some type of weapons, and you had actually a contemporary city setting for exactly 50 minutes in the last Dominion, because that was as inventive as that franchise has managed to got ever since for the first Jurassic Park.
Yeah, like nobody would even piss in the direction of having the open air festival, so to speak, having the Jurassic monsters on the loose amongst the human crowds in a vastly populated city or whatever. You just couldn't make it work at all. So what do? Let's go do like a 6th, 7th movie about the same thing.
Yeah, once again, they are locked up in a special place which is hard to get. So a bunch of idiots are gonna go there and get eaten.
Who the fuck is thinking this is gonna be something to watch anymore? Who wants to watch this? I don't understand.
And somewhere Pirates of the Caribbean Part 6 is quickly taking notes that, oh my god, Jurassic Park is rehashing the same plot elements from the first film. Quickly, let's do the exactly same thing, and you're gonna get once again like Curse of the Black Pearl with a new skin job.
What else is soon out there? If we would do proper series, I guess we would check the Alien TV series, which is coming out. There's been only like 10 teaser trailers about it.
I've actually avoided all of them.
Yeah, there's nothing to...
Avoided too strong projective here. I've actually forgotten that Alien Earth is coming up.
Oh, well, where to turn our attention? We could, of course, go watch some slow cinema. Timing Liang, getting more like proper artistic here without the limitations of Hollywood calculation. Or go back to Hollywood calculation, but somebody doing additional math on it. Alien 3 Legacy Cut.
I guess we kind of have to see, because the Legacy Cut really depends on exactly how different it's gonna be from Alien 3.
So we're gonna watch it first and then decide if we wanna talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say if it manages to stand on its own two legs and be different enough, then by all means let's do Legacy Cut. But if it's just like few fixes and still Alien 3, well, in that case, like we talked about Alien 3 to the death already on this podcast.
Yeah, we kind of did.
We have an episode about it. It lasted what 5 years to listen through.
So it remains to be seen what we really want to talk about in the next episode. But hey, next episode is gonna be episode 199. Do you want to do something special? Is there any movie that you really feel that we must cover this, like for the last 7 years? We should have covered this ages ago. Something that is really close to your heart.
Peter Jackson's King Kong.
Seriously?
No, I'm just messing with you, man.
Thank God. Oh my God.
I don't know. We have to think about what to do with the episode 200.
Yeah. Do you want to do like a a look back episode for the 200 or talk real topics or...
I don't really actually know, because I've lost the count on like what episode we are going on. So I haven't been thinking about the 200th episode at all here.
But next is 199, so you can fill it with whatever.
Yeah.
To be honest, I have nothing in mind.
Well, I'm fairly certain that we come up with something.
Yeah.
If nothing else, we can watch Lord of the Rings trilogy and talk about the whole trilogy.
You know, that did occur to me as a joke in my head. But maybe not. There's also those Bible movies that we could do.
Well, yeah, that's the other venue. We could watch Mel Gibson's Passion of the Christ.
Damn, just missed Easter. But no matter what, you will find out in the next one what we decided on. So I hope you'll enjoy. I'll see you, hear you then.
Until then.